The Century of the Hungarian Hussar, 1722 to 1815. On the campus of the Citadel in South Carolina, one of the United States' most renowned military academies, there is a memorial plaque that bears the name of Colonel Mihály Kovács, a Hungarian hussar. At first glance, it may seem unusual for such a prestigious and well-established American institution to pay homage to a Hungarian soldier. However, the origins of this tribute date back to the 18th century, when Hungary finally attained peace following 150 years of Ottoman rule, decades of civil war, and wars of independence. The country, devastated by conflict, began to rebuild, and people returned to once barren wastelands. Hungary, reviving as part of the Habsburg Empire, temporarily lost its significance to the outside world. However, the combat virtues that Hungarians had gained from centuries of war were greatly needed in the armies of Europe. It was these qualities that the country could offer to the rest of the world. So, how did the Hungarians become a minority in their own country? What was the Hussars' most famous military success? And how did a Hungarian Hussar captain come to lead the American cavalry? Hungary's revival. Following the Ottoman Wars, large parts of inland Hungary became utterly uninhabited. The Habsburgs undertook an organized resettlement program to remedy the situation, encouraging Germans to relocate to these areas by providing housing, tools, and several years of tax relief. Due to the tragic events of the 20th century, these Germans, later called Swabians, number about 100,000 in present-day Hungary, but they continue to preserve their traditions. In search of better livelihoods, Hungarian and Slovak peasants from the more populous northern highland counties migrated to the unpopulated lowland areas, thus revitalizing these regions. Many people from the eastern and southern borderlands also moved to Hungary. For example, Serbs fleeing Ottoman rule in the Balkans settled in the south, while Romanians moved to the eastern parts of the Great Hungarian Plains and Transylvania. This migration led to Hungary's mixed ethnic composition, with the indigenous Hungarian population dropping to only 40% by the beginning of the 19th century. In some regions, more than 5 nationalities lived side by side, including Hungarians, Romanians, Serbs, Slovaks, and other smaller ethnic groups. Our lives and our blood. Following the expulsion of the Turks, the preservation of Hungary's special status within the Habsburg Empire became a critical issue centered around maintaining the estates' centuries-old privileges and rights. The ruling Habsburgs would periodically try and introduce a modern, absolutist, centralized system of government. In response, the Hungarian estates would react swiftly to resist such measures, with varying degrees of success. Following Rákóczi's War of Independence, the next major upset would arrive in the form of the War of the Austrian Succession between 1740 and 1748. The accession of the young Habsburg monarch Maria Theresa to the throne, that is, the female succession to the Habsburg provinces and countries, was not accepted by either France or Prussia. They saw it as an excellent opportunity to fragment the Habsburg territories. This critical situation led the young queen to turn to the Hungarian parliament assembled in Pozsony, modern-day Bratislava, for assistance. She requested that they vote on the issuance of taxes and recruitment of conscripts necessary to save her and the empire. In a gallant display of loyalty to Maria Theresa, the Hungarians voted favorably upon both requests, with an utterance to offer their lives and blood for the queen. In exchange, they only asked that she promise to preserve their rights. Thus, Maria Theresa largely owed the preservation of her throne and the survival of the Habsburg Empire to the Hungarian estates of the realm. She also owed no small gratitude to those Hungarian soldiers, especially the hussars, who fought bravely during the war and carried out several brilliantly executed military operations. The Hungarian Hussar. The Hussars were a class of light cavalry that originated in Hungary during the 15th and 16th centuries. First mentioned as part of King Matthias Black Army, they gained prominence during the Ottoman period and the Rákóczi War of Independence. By the 18th century, they would become indispensable to military operations. Unlike the large and cumbersome armies of the day, the Hussars specialized in carrying out surprise raids targeting enemy camps and supply lines. So agile were these light cavalrymen that they could impact the outcome of full-scale wars. The generally recognized opinion of the day was that Hungary had the best light cavalry. A contemporary French military expert aptly summarized this, praising them for their skill, physical strength, temperament, ingenuity, daring, and the excellent quality and speed of their horses. The most famous feat of the Hungarian Hussars was carried out under the command of General András Hadik. In 1757, during the 7 Years' War, he and his 5,000 men ventured deep into Prussia, carrying out a surprise raid and successfully capturing its capital, Berlin. They did not target the population during the attack, but took home hundreds of thousands of thalers, silver coins, as a tribute to Queen Maria Theresa. It's no coincidence that a statue of the general on horseback can still be found in Buda Castle today. Indeed, a humorous pastime involves touching the statue for good fortune. Students preparing for exams, for instance, traditionally touch the shiny testicles of the horse for good luck in getting a better grade. From the first half of the 18th century, European armies could not exist without hussars for nearly 200 years. In the 19th century, most South American armies established their hussar units, usually trained by Hungarian officers, who joined foreign services out of necessity, either for better pay or due to emigration after the Rákóczi War of Independence. Hussars could be found in Napoleon's army, the Russian Imperial or British armies. Few know that Winston Churchill, who later became Britain's Prime Minister, served in the 4th British Hussar Regiment during his youth. One of the most notable foreign hussar units was founded in France in 1720 by the Hungarian László Bercsényi, who was later promoted to French Field Marshal for his achievements. Bercsényi's Hussar Regiment still exists in France today as the country's oldest military unit. However, airplanes have replaced their horses, and it is now known as the 1st Parachute Hussar Regiment. Despite their international success, the Hussars continued to be associated with Hungarians at home and abroad. Many Hungarians at the time believed that true Hussars could only hail from the divinely blessed land of Hungary, and that foreign ones were mere imitations or mustachioed cavaliers. While this was an inaccurate prejudice, the 18th century French saying stated, "Hungarians are all half Hussar." In other words, being a Hussar was considered an essential part of Hungarian pride and identity. Amongst the decorative uniforms of the time, the Hussars' unique and colorful regimental regalia were quite distinctive and significantly impacted Hungarian men's fashion. Their uniform was considered a national costume and would become fashionable even on social occasions such as balls, often with spurs, although they often damaged ladies' skirts during dances. Faithful unto death. The history of the Hussars is full of many legendary soldiers. Alongside Ondráš Hódek, there was Baron Daniel Mechery, known as the Hussar with the hardest head, and Colonel Mihai Kovács, mentioned earlier in the introduction. A veteran Hussar officer, Kovács had served in European wars and, in 1777, had offered his services to Benjamin Franklin. In his letter, written in Latin, Kovács included his motto, Fidelis ad mortem, faithful unto death. He would sail to America and receive a commission to train the Continental Army's light cavalry. As a result, he is still known as the father of American cavalry. Ultimately, Kovács sacrificed his life at the altar of American independence. In 1779, he fell at the Siege of Charleston, cementing the fame of the Hungarian Hussars overseas. Maria Theresa and the Hungarians. Maria Theresa sought to improve the lives of her people under the banner of enlightened absolutism. Accordingly, she regulated public education, passing decrees that established compulsory education for children and specified peasants' duties, thus sparing them from the excessive demands of their landlords. Over time, a special relationship developed between the Hungarians and their queen, and Maria Theresa remains the most popular Habsburg monarch to have ruled Hungary. Previous Habsburg kings would rarely leave the imperial court in Vienna and venture into war-torn Hungary. However, the queen broke with this tradition and frequently appeared at the palaces of various Hungarian aristocrats and bishops. During one of her trips, she visited the Bishop of Vác, who had erected a triumphal arch in her honor. Legend has it that as the structure was constructed just 2 weeks before Maria Theresa's arrival, she was initially reluctant to walk under it, fearing it might collapse. Fortunately, no such incident occurred, as the triumphal arch still stands today. The Queen founding a separate Hungarian noble guard consisting of hussar officers at her royal court in Vienna illustrates her appreciation for the Hungarians perfectly. Interestingly, the guard proved vital for Hungarian literature, as some of the best-known Hungarian writers of the 18th century emerged from this elite unit. The King with the Hat. Following Maria Theresa's 40-year reign, her son Joseph II ascended to the throne. Joseph became known as the King with a Hat, as he was not technically crowned King of Hungary. The coronation would have required him to swear an oath to uphold Hungary's laws and legal system, and it was precisely these political and social systems that he wanted to overhaul radically. As part of this process, he tried to abolish Hungary as a separate state and introduce German as the official language. His actions were deemed unacceptable by both the Hungarian political leadership as well as wider Hungarian society. Famously puritanical, the monarch saw himself as the principal servant of the empire and issued his modernizing edicts with tremendous diligence. Throughout his reign, he issued over 6,000 decrees aimed at wholesale change and intervention in every aspect of society. In one such decree, he even regulated the number of candles to be lit at various religious services. His famous motto, "Everything for the people, but nothing by the people," succinctly expressed his views on governance. Given these circumstances, it was little wonder that all sections of Hungarian society had turned against him by the end of Joseph's 10-year reign. Indeed, the situation would reach boiling point and be resolved only by his eventual retreat. Joseph II revoked all but 3 of the 6,000 decrees on his deathbed with a single stroke of his pen. The 3 that he kept included the decree that improved the situation of the peasantry and one that allowed the major Christian denominations to be practiced freely. May the war be long and the reign quiet. Over the next 25 years, the French Revolutionary Wars and Napoleon's military campaigns would have a massive impact on life in Hungary. The successor of Joseph II, Francis I, would rule for 4 decades, the outset of which saw a good working relationship between the monarch and the Hungarian estates. The ongoing wars meant that the ruler depended on Hungarian taxes and military recruits, so he took Joseph II's reform plans off the agenda, as they would have infringed upon the rights of the Hungarian estates. Seeing the French Revolution as an alarming example, the king tried to halt the tide of revolution at home by preventing any change. In the Napoleonic Wars, many Hungarian soldiers and hussars would distinguish themselves, but the period would also bring a sense of peaceful prosperity to Hungarian society. While no significant military campaigns took place in Hungarian territory, landowners could sell their grain at a handsome price owing to the wartime boom. A famous farewell greeting read, "May the war be long and the reign quiet." Traveling through Hungary, one can still see this prosperity in the Baroque and classical mansions and manor houses of the nobility built during this period. A German traveller, for instance, wrote highly of the lifestyle, dress, and customs of the elite. "The family dinner tables here are so richly and favourably supplied that even several unexpected guests could make little difference. Here, 10 to 12 dishes of excellent food are common fare at mealtimes. They exceed what we would offer at a banquet." Napoleon's French troops invaded Hungary only once, in 1809, when they defeated the Habsburg forces again, this time at the Battle of Győr. The Austrian military included an antiquated contingent of Hungarian noble troops called up for one last time. This defeat would have significant consequences in the following decades, with the legitimacy of the nobility's privileges called into question. In other words, if the nobility could no longer form a practical military force to defend the country, then on what grounds could they continue to enjoy those privileges? The Hungarian Versailles. In the 18th century, after the Ottoman-Hungarian Wars, the country entered a phase of peaceful development. The influence of this era can be seen in the Baroque-style squares and churches of towns such as Győr, Vác, Eger, and Temesvár. The cathedrals, episcopal palaces, and educational institutions destroyed during the Ottoman period were rebuilt in the same Baroque style, along with the newly erected mansions of the aristocracy. In the 18th century, Hungarian noble families would have their townhouse in Vienna built as close to the royal court as possible, and palatial estates in Hungary, which they transformed into magnificent aristocratic residences in the Baroque style. These palaces were not simply expensive fads for the comfort of the aristocracy, but served as cultural centers too, the construction of which generated significant commissions for a wide variety of artisans. In the king's absence, the Esterházys, the wealthiest ducal family, established the country's most prestigious court. Prince Nicholas Esterházy, also known as the Magnificent, built his resplendent summer residence, Esterháza in Fertő. Often considered the Hungarian Versailles due to its impressive splendor, even Maria Theresa was amazed by its grandeur during her visit. Cultural events flourished at the residence, where Baroque architecture, fine art, and classical music abounded. The famous Viennese composer Joseph Haydn worked as the court composer for almost 3 decades in the prince's employ. Prince Nicolaus himself regularly played chamber music with his favorite composer. After 2 centuries of devastation under the Ottomans, the 18th century saw Hungary undergo a period of peaceful reconstruction. The population began to increase once more, and Baroque culture flourished while the estates of the realm successfully preserved their independence. However, Hungary's social and cultural development suffered from centuries of warfare and lagged far behind the accelerating development of other parts of Europe. Moreover, the country would become multi-ethnic, proving to be a severe problem in the next century with the rise of nationalism. The question thus became, could the Hungarian nation withstand the challenges of the 19th century?